This is going to be a short podcast that summarizes the 9 steps of the Dick and Carey model. So in step 1, we determine our instructional goals. In this step, we identify what the students need to learn. So I teach computer science, so an example of that would be students will be able to write a simple Python program. In step 2, we conduct instructional analysis. And in this stage, we identify the performance gap between existing knowledge and the desired knowledge. An example of how we could do this would be to conduct an online survey to determine students' existing skill set and knowledge. In step 3, we identify entry behaviors. This step should identify the general characteristics of the learner, which would include their skills, experience, and motivation, and some basic demographics, with the goal of identifying their starting point. An example of how we could do this, I believe we could also do this using an online survey. Step 4, we would write performance objectives, and this is a description of the skills that need to be learned. So an example of this would be students will be able to plan, write, and troubleshoot a simple Python program using variables, input statements, print statements, and if-else statements. In stage 5, we develop assessment instruments. And this is when we create a method of evaluation. So an example of this, I would use a combination of multiple choice and short answer response questions to evaluate a student's knowledge in this particular Python module. In step 6, we would develop an instructional strategy. So this is when we outline the lesson plan and decide how each segment would be completed. And an example of this would be the typical process that I usually use is to demonstrate, then use guided activity, have them perform an independent activity, an assessment, and reflection. So I would kind of just map that out. Step 7, we develop instructional materials, which is when we actually create the content. And in step 8 is a formative evaluation. So using iterative design methods to find and fix weaknesses in the lesson. So we could collect student feedback to ensure that the objectives are being met. And in step 9 would be a summative evaluation where we evaluate the entire program. So in summary, as a traditional teacher, I feel like I do this on a constant basis, on an informal level. That was my initial impression. I found some of the steps to be maybe a little vague or redundant. So for example, the conducting analysis and identifying entry behaviors, I kind of felt like could be used with the same survey. So I would have liked to see more examples on how this is actually carried out. So I feel like I grasped the theory of it, but I would have liked to see more examples as far as how it's being implemented in the real world, so that way I could kind of confirm my skills and knowledge, I guess, in the field. But overall, I felt like I had a good grasp on it.